What's up, good people? Welcome. The Chargers are officially playoff bound. They get an emphatic win on the road in a game they had to win to make the playoffs. They win 40-7. We saw 3 passing touchdowns from Justin Herbert, 2 of which caught by McConkey who had 94 yards. J.K. Dobbins, 76 yards, gets a rushing touchdown at the end, all the way through a pretty close to flawless game for the Chargers. And it really feels like a game that Harbaugh has his print on all over this game. As you see, Jamie's not here. Jamie is out watching some softball with his daughter, but he sent us a video. So in kind of a different fashion, we are going to play Jamie's video. We both have not watched it yet. We'll play Jamie's recap of it. We'll talk about what he had to say, and then we'll cover the rest of this game. So welcome everybody to the show, and let's go ahead and give Jamie the floor here. Here is Jamie giving us a recap of what he got to see out on the softball field.
What's up, everybody? It's Jamie here. I'm out here in Irvine at the Youth Softball All-American Games with Grace, and I just wanted to check in for after hours and give my quick thoughts on the game from what I was able to see at the All-American Games today. First takeaway for me is this is 100% a game the Chargers would have lost under previous regimes, but they came out ready to play. They took advantage of a bad football team, and they took care of business and were able to clinch a huge playoff berth in year 1 of Harbaugh. And it just speaks to the culture change with this team. You know, no letdowns, no trap games. They came in, they got an early lead, they built on it, and they stomped on the Patriots' throats on the road to clinch their playoff spot. So huge win for Harbaugh and the Chargers. Just great to see them take care of business the way they did. And then the other big takeaway for me, actually 2 takeaways. One is offensively. You can see the offense continuing to evolve during the course of the season. You know, early in the year, they wanted to play bully ball. They wanted to be a physical ground and pound kind of offense, and they were kind of limiting Herbert's opportunities. We've seen his opportunities increase. If you had told me at the end of year 1 that we'd be seeing Herbert throw the ball close to 40 times in a must-have game with Harbaugh and in charge and with Roman calling the plays, I would have said you were crazy. But what we see is they're using the passing game to set up the running game. Now they're able to close out games with the running game late because of the success they're having throwing the ball. They're putting the ball in Herbert's hands. He's elevating everybody around him in a way that he really hasn't done in years past, which is super impressive. And we're seeing them come up with man beaters, concepts to have success against man coverage defenses, put them in conflict and come up with big play after big play. And this was probably the best all-around offensive performance the Chargers have had, not just in terms of points, but just in terms of efficiency, controlling the clock, converting on 3rd down, taking advantage of red zone opportunities, putting the game away when they had a chance to off turnovers. All of it. They did great. And finally, the 3rd point for me really is just their ability to play complementary football. The offense doing their job, the defense getting off the field on 3rd down. Granted, the competition isn't great. You can't take too much away from this defensive performance against this particular team. But to be able to get off the field on 3rd down, get off the field on the 4th down, come up with some big sacks, a couple of turnovers, they played some really good football all the way around, and the team is going to the playoffs because of it. So hope everybody enjoyed the game. I'm going to get back to the All-American games here, but big win for the Chargers, and looks like we're going to be talking about playoff games for the next couple of weeks. Time to get the walkthrough going again, so we can start talking about the playoff games and possibilities and potential matchups. And that's it. So we'll see everybody next time. Thank you very much, and I'll talk to everybody soon. Thank you.
Did you think a bolt up was coming?
No,
at the very end.
We're nowhere close to that.
I got to say one thing before you start talking about that. That's some nasty work from Jamie. Let me just say. First off, he mentioned All-American game like how many times? Like 7 times, just so that he can kind of let everybody know what he's doing and where he's at. And then also throws in a plug for walkthrough. during after hours while we're doing it. And then, not to mention, I mean, that was almost a 3.5 minute video. That wasn't really a recap. He like basically did a small podcast. He could have hopped on here and done that. But
yeah, we could have given him the first 3 minutes live. Could have knocked that out. Let him have at it. I mean, look, man, when your daughter's a beast, you gotta go in there and represent. So he sure did the right thing as a parent. So I don't blame him. Yeah.
And we're proud of Jamie and his daughter, and we're really happy for him. It was his birthday yesterday, so a late happy birthday. It's all jokes, but nice recap on hitting a bunch of points that I'm sure we're going to talk about here first. But let's go with the, I don't know, first point, second point. We're just talking about how it was offensively today. How did you feel Greg Roman did, and I mean how the offense went today?
Yeah, well, I mean, Jamie touched on it a little bit, but I would be remiss if I didn't mention that there was no way I expected Justin Herbert to come to this game and attempt 38 passes, specifically because just looking at the weather earlier in the week, it was supposed to be some rain, but apparently it happened earlier in the day. I have to believe that affected the game plan a little bit more when they realized they were going to be able to throw it around the yard a bit, because the Pats, they gave no pass rush whatsoever. Justin Herbert was almost clean the entire day. I think I saw maybe one, possibly two pressures. So overall, the offense was very, very efficient in the passing game. So 26 of 38, 281 yards, 3 TDs. It should have been 4, but he missed lad on one. But, that's kind of nitpicking there, but highly efficient in the passing game. The running game got going later. I was still a little discouraged earlier in the game. It felt like they were performing subpar on the ground against the team that ranked 24th against the run. So it wasn't the best thing. But again, J.K. Dobbins is just getting back this week. See, he's kind of trying to work off a little bit of the rust. But as the game went on, you saw him kind of running more behind his pads and gaining yardage after contact, where in the first half, it looked like he was kind of taking on the brunt of the hits and being driven back. But I did like the rotation that they had going with their 3 backs. I guess kind of trying to keep JK fresh, but also not overworking him. But yeah, in general, the offense played very well, inclusive of the offensive line, like as a whole, which I did not expect in totality. You had 1 sack or near sack given up by Rashawn Slater that seemed like, I don't know, I have to go back and rewatch that play, but it didn't look like he had the proper pass set there and got beat to the outside with speed. But again, we're nitpicking. Overall, the offense played a very, very solid game, and I definitely want to give props to the offensive line. Definitely Len McConkey for going in there and then breaking Keenan Allen's rookie receptions and receiving yardage record as well. So big day for him. And Quentin Johnston for being utilized properly and making the most of his opportunities. I think he had 2 clutch third down receptions, and Greg Roman was utilizing him in the screen game, which we've been begging for an entire season, and also last year before, but that was kind of obsolete. We're not really discussing the past, but it looks like as the season's wearing on and we're getting late and going into the playoffs, it looks like Greg Roman's kind of understanding who does what well and is putting him in positions to succeed. So again, overall, between the guys on the field and Greg Roman, it was pretty much a bang-up job today.
So yeah, there's a lot going on. First of all, Jamie's watching. Jamie, what's up? It was all love. Also, shout out to Grace, who's 1 for 2 today. Had an RBI, I think he said, and a nice little highlight reel play at third base. So go get it, Grace. I'm glad your dad's out there being able to watch it. But
keep cooking, Grace.
Keep cooking. And the chats telling us that Molden is done for the season. Just checked it, and it looks like he suffered a broken fibula.
Oh, God.
During the game today. The cart came out, and it was on that when he got injured, went out, and then came back in is when he had his injury and a real tough blow.
The opposite leg, and it was non-contact. That's wild.
Yeah. Yeah. So rough for, I think, the team leading interception DB. I think he's got 3.
I think he's behind Tarheeb still, I want to say.
Oh, is he?
I think they're still either tied with Still or behind.
No, because Molden has 3 and I'm pretty sure Still has 4. But anyway, 3 interceptions on the back end is good. But bad news for the Chargers. But yeah, the pocket today felt like almost completely clean. There was 1 hit from Keon White when they were kind of backed up against the goal line. That was the only QB hit that while watching this, because I'm like, I wonder how many they're going to get, because it felt like Herbert had all day to deal. And Roman said, hey, if you're not going to get any pass rush, then why not give Herbert a chance to throw it? I think it was 38 pass attempts today, 38.
38.
So yeah, just let them deal. But looking at the stat sheet, they gave them 4 QB hits, one of which was that Yannick Ngakoue late hit. And I can't believe that they're even going to like count that. That doesn't feel like something that should be counted. But anyway, the offensive line was great today. There was no pass rush from the Patriots much at all. And like what Jamie mentioned, I mean, the competition wasn't good, but to put the emphatic nail in the coffin and go 40-7 on the road in a game you had to win to get in is really, really impressive. And a thing that we all thought, hey, look, if they hire Harbaugh, this is the kind of football you're going to look forward to. It's not going to be any of these close squeak out wins to lower competition. This is a bottom 5 team for a reason. And the Chargers are a playoff team, a top, 7 team in the AFC for a reason. And they showed it today that they were much better competition than the Patriots are. And huge day from McConkey today. He broke Keenan Allen's old rookie reception record today, which you mentioned. And then also we got to see him tie OBJ, I think it was, with the most 50-plus yard reception yards with 9 consecutive games. And could break that next week if he gets another game with 50-plus yards, which is another conversation we'll have about whether they want to play starters or not. But I do agree the rotation with the wide receivers was nice today. Even the rotation with the running backs was really cool to see as well, because all 3 really contributed. But we haven't got to Darius Davis yet, who made just a remarkable catch today, a diving TD, which, I mean, maybe one of his best of his career. He dove, tucked his hands underneath the ball. He's starting to get a lot more wide receiver snaps, and he's starting to make those snaps count. 2 touchdowns in 2 weeks. It was an unbelievable catch today and really sparked the offense, and they just never looked back from there.
Yeah, the really cool part about that is so it's 2 consecutive games with touchdowns. This is only 2 touchdown receptions of his career. Again, it happened in consecutive games, but he laid out his entire 5'8" frame. He needed every last inch of it in order to make that catch. And I mean, I was really impressed because, I mean, Davis has pretty decent hands, but that's not the type of receiver that he is. And last week, after, going back and checking it out again, the touchdown catch that he had wasn't necessarily on a design route. I think he was in the flat, and because the play had to get extended, he just worked his way upfield, and Herbert just kept working his way out of the pocket to the sideline. He found him again upfield. But this week, that was actually a play call designed to get him vertical. And I think we've been asking about this for a while. You've got a guy who's got 4.3 speed, even though he's not like the ideal downfield threat. You've got to be able to stretch the defenses somehow, and they utilized them today in that way. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see a little bit more of that maybe next week and going into the playoffs.
Yeah. A nice day from Darius Davis today, and had a touchdown called back on a punt return, unfortunately, by a holding and a block in the back. I'm sure we'll get to 36 sometime today. But, we were talking about the running back rotation. And, J.K. Dobbins really helped the offense go today. Again, over 75 yards. Had that kind of almost nail in the coffin rushing touchdown at the end to go up 30. They kept adding on. But I do want to say, we saw Hassan Haskins show some really good power, especially on that 4th drive. It wasn't the last drive before the half because the Patriots went down and scored real quick on that touchdown. But it resulted in that Ladd touchdown. He had Haskins had 2 first down runs off a 3rd down, one off the edge and one just a straight power gap run where he got a first down. You loved what Haskins had early in that game, and then late he ran angry. Once Herbert and Dobbins sat in the 4th, got a first down there as well. Really showed some nice power. Showed some, real angry runs at the end of that game when the game was pretty much over, but still fighting for his life, getting first downs, and a real nice job from Haskins today.
Yeah, you can tell guys are trying to make the most of their snaps. It was really enjoyable to go into the fourth quarter and see guys just be able to sit, and some of these, second and third string guys get in and be able to get some burn. Not just for the experience, but also, like you mentioned, they had some playing time during the game that is going to be valuable as we move into the end of the year next week and going into the playoffs as well. So Haskins has improved throughout the year. We saw him score last week as well, but it seems like they're utilizing him in other ways, not just necessarily, goal to go plays or short yardage where he's obviously going to get the ball as like a fullback or something like that. And then kind of atone for that fumble he had a few weeks ago. I was a little surprised that Vidal didn't get as many carries earlier on. We saw him with like 2. He had a couple of good runs, and then they put him on the back burner, and there was more of a rotation between Dobbins and Haskins as far as the ball carriers were concerned. But you could tell they were trying to get Dobbins' rev back up, and they definitely wanted to, assert their will in the running game. But they ran a whole lot of outside zone, which I didn't necessarily expect, especially with Jamari Salyer being in today with no Trey Pipkins, because I also think that made a huge difference. I feel a lot of us also agree in the passing game as well as the rushing game. So, yeah, Trey Pipkins, take it easy, man. Heal up, but no rush. I think we'll be okay in the interim. But other than that, yeah, it was nice to see Haskins get in there and be a contributor and not someone who basically hurt the team. Like we mentioned before, we'll get to, there's one person in particular that literally never needs to see the football field ever again if anyone can help it. And I'm all for finding ways to make that happen legally, of course. But if not, we can explore those opportunities as well. I just don't ever want to see him on the field for the Chargers ever again.
Yes. Getting back to Salyer, Salyer was huge on that kind of that drive that Haskins was really vital on. He was really good on a pull. He was a pulling blocker on that Will Dissly screen that ended up being a first down. And then when Haskins got off the edge, it was Salyer out leading the parade there at the sticks to get that first down. Really good in the open field. Was good at the line of scrimmage. The offensive line as a whole had their best game as an entirety. I know, Rashawn Slater got burnt at one point by Keon White. It felt like they said 4 QB hits, but it just felt like Herbert had all day today. And we can't say that throughout the rest of the season. It just felt like Herbert's been under duress a lot, especially recently. But today, I mean, even with a really bad Patriots team, the offensive line did great work today. We got 19 carries from Dobbins today, where he didn't have to put on a full load, but enough to, keep that offense humming for 76 yards, got the touchdown, really sparked the offense. And it was nice all behind this offensive line that really kind of clicked today in a game they needed to win.
Yeah. And I really thought today was going to end up being one of those games, just again, based on what the weather reports were, that the Chargers were going to have to dominate on the ground. I thought I was going to have to see Herbert utilize his legs a bit more, but it was literally the polar opposite. So to be able to come out in a game where you just blow the Patriots out in the way that you did was definitely a shock. But good to know the Chargers can get on the road in less than perfect weather and still move the ball, because we know what the bugaboo has been all season long. The wide receiver core is not ideal, but again, they're finding ways to get the ball into the hands of guys and put them in the positions to succeed. So overall, just again, we can nitpick, but there's a lot to say about a team. And of course, we have to consider the opponent. These aren't like the Patriots that have caused us so much pain in the past, but to be able to go on the road in a game that, you didn't technically have to have and put it on a team in this fashion says a lot about the mindset of the team and the direction that they're going in.
Yeah, we were there's a lot of talk about that trade, how big was moving up in the draft with the Patriots to get McConkey. And then they showed that draft trade from Lou on the screen, which was, Chargers got Ladd McConkey, Tarheeb Still, and the Patriots got Polk, and was it Javon Baker? Was that the other wide receiver they got?
I think it was Baker.
But regardless, the other wide receiver, I'm pretty sure it was Baker, but Baker had a goose egg this year in reception. So yeah, they definitely won that trade for sure. But man, everybody's talking about, was it Marvin Harrison Jr., Malik Neighbors, Roma Dunze as your wide receiver one of this class? But boy, oh boy, nobody mentioned Ladd McConkey.
Yeah, that was not a name that was received very well, even when we had our draft reactions initially.
I wasn't there, so I was actually saying Ladd was wide receiver one the whole time.
Oh,
I
really?
couldn't be there.
Okay.
Yeah. I wasn't on stream. You guys didn't see it, but
Gotcha.
yeah.
Yeah. No face, no case. So yeah, I mean, initially the reaction was not great. It's not that, and I'll speak for myself, I didn't like Ladd. I just didn't necessarily see the fit just based on what the Chargers needed at the wide receiver position. I just felt like they needed a bigger body that was more of a playmaker that could win on his own. But right now, let's just be completely honest. And they're not asking him to do it a lot. Ladd McConkey played a lot on the outside at Georgia. They're not asking him to do it a ton with the Chargers because it's not where he's best utilized, but I feel like he could do a little bit of it if called upon. But being just completely honest, Ladd McConkey right now is a top 5 route runner in the NFL. I have no doubt about it. Just watching his footwork, the way he gets in and out of breaks and creates separation. If you put him against any other receiver on the Chargers roster right now as a rookie, he outshines and outclasses all of them. And we're talking about guys that have multiple years of experience. And it's just wild to say that a guy that's 6 foot, like 170 nothing pounds, is out there not only doing it in the passing game, but is a willing blocker. Like you saw him getting after it with one of the veteran corners in the game today. They're having a little bit of a shoving match because the dude's chippy. The size doesn't speak to the type of player that he has. He is all heart and very, very skilled. I mean, the game started off, there were 2 early drops. One came from QJ and then one came from Ladd, but then they just both picked up their games and produced for the rest of it. But overall, man, no, Ladd McConkey was not a guy that I saw being this impactful this year. I felt like he would make a huge difference. I think I was somewhere in the realm of giving him 700 to 800 yards receiving potentially. I figured he would be kind of the target monster where Joshua Palmer would be more of the big play guy, more of a guy who scores the touchdowns. But Palmer has been a big play guy, but that's been kind of it. He's not been a consistent threat in a receiving game. And I think he even went out today with like a heel injury or something. I'm not sure if Harbaugh addressed that in the presser yet or not. Probably didn't. But yeah, it's Ladd. And if they don't have Ladd, who knows where this passing game is right now, because he's the difference maker and teams still can't figure out how to stop him.
69 receptions, 960 yards. He had 94 today and 2 touchdowns on 8 receptions. An excellent day from Ladd McConkey, and it's almost reminiscent of what we were all saying, and granted we didn't have a podcast then, but of what we saw of Keenan Allen his rookie year. I mean, just an even not the fastest guy, but a excellent, cleanest route runner that you have ever seen in a Chargers uniform. I mean, absolutely gorgeous footwork from both Ladd and Keenan, and it's awesome that it's not awesome that Keenan left, but he got traded, not his fault, by the way, which I hated everybody talking about. I can't believe Keenan left the Chargers after that Bears game the other day. Like, it's not his fault he got traded. Yes, he could have taken another deal from the Chargers, but it would have been less money. But regardless, to once Keenan leaves, to just a drag and drop, almost Keenan replica with Ladd McConkey, who quite honestly might have a higher ceiling if everything clicks his way. I mean, the go route today, right by Jonathan Jones, was a thing that we haven't seen all year, but a thing of beauty today. I mean, we've seen him on drag routes, on crossers. We've seen him on up and outs, posts, but we just haven't seen that go route where he just run by a guy, and he did it today on that second touchdown.
Yeah, and where they caught the Patriots off guard is that they've been watching tape all season and have not seen the Chargers be a vertical offense. But you stick Ladd McConkey there in the slide and let him attack the seam, and you can see Jones just kind of sitting at the sticks, expecting him to run some sort of route to just get the first down, and he blows right by him. But then you also can tell that Ladd, and no disrespect to Keenan Allen, what made Keenan Allen great was the fact that he was a technician. Ladd has that, plus he's a better athlete overall. His short area quickness and ability to get vertical and his top speed is very, very good. The wild part about it, ironically enough, is like Keenan's thing was running all his routes at essentially the same speed, so you never knew what he was running. All of his routes look the exact same. Ladd can do a little bit of everything. He can switch up his tempos, but what makes him super effective are at the 2 most important places as a wide receiver that you have to be very good. That's on your release from the line of scrimmage and your break out of your route. And he's dominant at both levels. So Yep, for everything that Keenan was, Ladd seems to be equal in his rookie season, just in different ways. But again, overall, the Chargers got a steal in this one. It's weird to say that with the second round pick because you expect them to contribute, but no, Ladd is performing to round one levels. I don't think there's any argument about that.
Oh yeah, he's outperforming, top 10 picks right now. And yes, Ladd should have definitely had another touchdown from Seahawks. Herbert missed him, but from Randy, I believe he has the most yards in rookie season by a Charger wide receiver. He has not hit that mark quite yet, which Keenan Allen had over 1,000
yards. He has yards. I think he has yards and receptions, right? I thought he broke both
Ladd?
Of Keenan.
Did he break both?
I thought he got both today.
I'm gonna have to look that up because Keenan had 1,046. Did Ladd pass that? Was I reading stats that weren't updated?
Maybe, because I think he went over 1,000 today for sure.
Yeah, that would be the case. So he had 960 going into this game. That's the stats
prior.
I just read. Yeah. So yeah, it looks like if I'm doing my math right, 960. He did.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Nice. Awesome. Thanks, Randy. Perfect. Big day for Ladd today. Not just on the field, but also in franchise history. Good job. All right. Yeah, those are all stats. I got it. ESPN did not update it. Neither did anywhere else, apparently. I just looked at two different places that still had him at 69 receptions. All right. Broke the record and also tied that record for most consecutive games with 50-plus receiving yards with 9. He tied OBJ. He could break that record next week. Mm-hmm. While we're still talking about offense, I want to say, quietly, I really like the game Stone Smart had today.
Yep.
There were 2 throws in the first half where Herbert basically just threw the ball up to Stone Smart and wanted him to make a play. Both were in really, really tight coverage, and both were really, really strong catches. One was for 14 yards. The other was on a fourth down conversion before halftime where they needed that first down. He threw it in a crowd. Smart gets it and then goes straight down. He had 2 defenders on either side of him. Both really, really strong catches. The one for 14 yards, he had a DB draped all over him, had strong hands through the catch where the DB's trying to knock it out. And it just feels like Smart each week is starting to put up really good plays and putting a positive impact on the game. And today was the same. He only had 2 receptions, but both of which, 2 that I can remember, both of which were really, really impressive.
Yeah, Smart stepping up in big spots. So again, I talked about it here in the past. It's not always about playing perfect football, but being timely can also be even more important. And that's what Stone Smart's been, like you mentioned today. That first catch, I think it was in the second quarter, and it was definitely a contested catch against the safety and man coverage. But Herbert put the ball in a place where only he could securely catch it, but it was still very much so contested. It was not an easy reception for him to make, got his hands on the ball and kept the drive going. And that fourth down catch, and hey guys, this is 2 for 2 on fourth down today. So I know everybody's been complaining recently about Jim Harbaugh not being aggressive enough on fourth down. He went for it twice a day and made good on both. But Stone Smart feels like he's starting to become a mainstay in the offense. So I expect his role to grow a bit more. And I want to say they have him on a controlled contract for at least another year. I think he's a restricted free agent, if I'm not mistaken. I want to say. So they'll probably have him back next season, continue to develop him in the offseason, and keep him in the mix, because just like the Baltimore Ravens, who like to hoard tight ends, I don't think just having 2 will be enough for the Chargers. So I could see Smart sticking around, Disley still being there, and then also going after another tight end in the draft as well. So building out that room and having guys that aren't just bodies, but solid contributors, and Stone stepping up in that way.
And he is a restricted free agent. He will definitely be back next year. They'd be silly not to keep him. So yeah, having Disley, Smart as your tight end 2-3, and hopefully bringing in another tight end next offseason, and they're sitting pretty. It's a pretty strong group there. And then if you add in Kraft and then you've got 4. I was going to say, yeah, anyway, he's a fullback, so never mind. All right, let's move on to defense. Is there anything else offensively you want to touch on?
I want to say that basically covers it. Well, earlier, I don't know if my eyes were deceiving me, but were they rotating Sam Mustipher and Jamari Sawyer at any
They
point
did at
earlier
one
in the
point.
game?
Yeah, they did at one
Okay.
point. Yeah.
I was curious as to why that was. I mean, we didn't see any real drop off on the interior either way, but I didn't know if Sawyer had maybe gone out for a play due to injury or something, or maybe they were just trying to mix Mustipher in, which I don't understand why they would do that, but whatever.
Yeah. Before we get off it, man, where was it? How do you feel about the return of J.K. Dobbins? How'd you feel about him coming back from Rolo? Yay.
Yeah. So interestingly enough, I think I mentioned this earlier when we got kicked off, but it felt to me like he was trying to find his groove early. He was absorbing a ton of contact and kind of being pinballed. It seemed like he was taking on the brunt of all the contact and being knocked backwards. But as the game went on and we got into the second half, you saw him really start running behind his pads and creating, which is something that we definitely missed. He had a really big run there in the second half where he essentially broke like 3 or 4 tackles, bounced the ball outside, and made a huge run of it. And that's something that no other back on this roster has been able to do. And it's something that's been missed in his absence. So I was really happy to see him get back and not really exhibit much drop off. I mean, it wasn't a back-breaking injury that he had. It's just it was a sprain. So he had the time to heal, and it looks like he was just raring to go. He just needed the opportunity to get warmed up, and he did that. So happy to have him back because it makes a world of difference in this offense because you feel a little bit more confident, say on third and short, if you don't necessarily want to have to throw the ball, knowing that J.K. Dobbins can create and get you an extra 2 or 3 yards when things aren't blocked up perfectly. So happy to have him back.
Yeah, they went on a little losing streak a couple weeks ago, and then you saw what this game in particular, the difference of how this offense goes than without them. I know they won by 7 last week against Denver, but even with Gus, getting 2 touchdowns, the run game wasn't all that effective. They were able to punch in some late, but it just felt like they were a much more balanced offense today with J.K. Dobbins, and they're better for it heading into the playoffs because right now, like Jamie kind of mentioned, if you're living off of Justin Herbert's arm and then you can kill the game late with the run game, that's teams that win in the playoffs. Ones that can control clock and ones that can win games late running the football. And with J.K. Dobbins, they did it today, and they're better suited with J.K. Dobbins heading in the playoffs. And now, hopefully, as I think there's a game going on right now with Cincy and Denver. Denver's up 3-0 now. We're all rooting for the Bengals, hoping that the Chargers can get that matchup with the Texans. I think that's what we're all hoping for at this point.
Yeah, fighting for that 5th seed because I do not want to see the Baltimore Ravens under any circumstances. If we can avoid that, that would be great.
Yeah.
Oh, but last thing on the offense,
just
thinking about this. So as far as efficiency offensively, they were 10 for 17 on third down, which has been a killer for the offense for weeks. I mean, the Chargers have been hovering, around like low 30s as far as conversion percentage goes on third down, but today over 50, and they were able defensively to hold the Patriots 2 for 10. So they handled their business on both sides of the ball there, but specific shout out to the offense for getting it done on those gotta have it downs, third down, and also again being 2 for 2 on fourth down as well.
Yeah, defensively, the Chargers, was it 2 for 10 today on third down?
For the Pats, they held the best for 2 for 10 on third.
Yeah, one of which came real late at the 2-minute warning. Both third downs coming where they're just kind of relenting yards. They were able to get 4 turnovers today. They got 1 of that fumble on that kind of errant pitch by Drake May, but then 3 turnovers on downs when they needed to try to get something together. Defense never relented. And Derwin James today, really impressive on the stat sheet, getting that fumble from that errant pass to Douglas and then getting 2 sacks on 2 different fourth downs. That's 3 turnovers by himself today. Excellent job from Derwin James getting after the quarterback, and great job from the defense, not really relenting. They got 1 broken play on a free play where Dupree jumped off sides. Pop Douglas gets open behind Jasir Taylor and catches the touchdown. Outside of that, defense gave up nothing. Some untimely errors on a PI from Fulton, and then a PI on fourth down from Cam Hart. But outside of that, I mean, Patriots had nothing going today. They had 117 yards passing. They had like 96 yards on the ground. I think Gibson had 63 total. It was real good effort from the defense today.
Yeah, that turnover by Drake May on that pitch play. I mean, the dude had gone out with what they thought could possibly be a concussion, and he looked like he was still suffering from the after effects on that play. I have no idea who he was attempting to pitch that ball to, but dude just came out after the snap and just flicked that thing back there. It's like whoever wants it can have it. And speaking of the defense, Cam Hart is a menace. That's something that dude's wired a little bit differently. If you're in the open field one-on-one with Cam Hart, it really doesn't matter who you are. If he has an opportunity to try to take your head off, he absolutely will. Hopefully he doesn't knock himself out of the process. But today, I mean, that shot he laid on Drake May was hellacious, and I was really actually surprised that he came back into the game. But you mentioned it also. Derwin James looks like 2018 Derwin James today. Multiple stops, turnovers, being effective in the box. And again, you're seeing a defensive coordinator who understands where he's best utilized. What that also means is the Chargers, and you've seen this, kind of by way of injury, but they were doing it before. Investing in the safety position in free agency, picking up guys that will be able to play on the back end and allow Derwin to do what he does best, and that's roam the box and make plays there. So as long as he's operating where he should be, you can use him in the back third if you need to here and there. But Derwin creates havoc on in the box, whether it's against the run, whether it's on passing plays. It's like that added benefit of having an additional pass rusher, but in the body of like a more athletic linebacker or safety as opposed to a traditional edge guy. That's hard to block up. You've got both Bosa, you got Mac out there, Thule, and then you can throw Derwin into the mix. That's a very difficult, mix of guys to have to contend with. And Derwin's just laying it all on the line, man. I know people were asking questions here in the last few years if he was losing it, but I just think he was being misused. And you're seeing, again, a competent defensive coordinator turn him back into the guy that he always should have been. And I'm sorry, whenever something bad happens on the defensive side of the ball, there's always a common denominator.
Boy.
It's Jasir Taylor. And I know the coaching staff has to see it. I don't understand why he necessarily had to be on the field today. I don't think the Chargers run a ton of dime. I could be mistaken, but I know, in their multiple DB sets, they tend to use more 3 safety looks. But whatever you have to do to keep this dude off of the field, please do so. He's also now becoming a liability on the return team. And granted, he wasn't the only person that committed the foul. His was the foul that they took, so it stands out there. But again, him just being attached to everything negative on the defensive side of the ball is an eyesore. And, look, we only have a few more games, however many more the Chargers have of Jasir Taylor on this roster. So I guess use him for what he's worth. As a body, whatever, just keep him off of the field in key situations. If he doesn't have to be playing, then I don't think he should be.
Yeah, every week he's on the wrong side of a big play, and today he gave up that touchdown to Pop Douglas where, he was like roaming 3 to 4 yards behind Douglas. And I know that ball was kind of a duck and underthrown and everything, but, he wasn't even in the vicinity, to be honest with you. Even if it was underthrown, it was bad coverage, and that is his 5th touchdown he gave up this season, and he's a rotational corner. He's not a starting corner. 5 touchdowns for a rotational corner, your 4th, 5th CB is god awful. The holding penalty, again, he wasn't the only one. It was his number that was enforced, so it will be on the stat sheet. But he's doing bad things every single week. And then you see Dean Leonard make plays. We saw him force an incompletion late. He had a tackle for a loss late. Why aren't those flipped? It feels like Jasir Taylor can get run when you're sitting your starters at the end of the game. Why not have Dean Leonard in there as your rotational corner? Having Jasir Taylor as a special teams player was fine enough. Now he's hurting the team on special teams. I don't know what you do here, but my concern here now, Craig, is with Elijah Molden out and Alohi Gilman out. What other choice do they have other than to play Taylor just a little bit more?
And that is the unfortunate side of this, because that's what's been happening the last few weeks. You can see when they work him off of the field, it's because they have their guys available to them. But then someone gets hurt and then he ends up back on the field. It's happened with Cam Hart a couple times. Dean Leonard cross-trained some as a safety, so he plays a little bit there. So they're able to kind of maneuver him around a bit. But it's just like you mentioned, if the guys are available, which now we have to be concerned that they're down one safety. Hopefully, they did pick up Eddie Jackson. So that's an option. He's familiar with the defense, having played it in Baltimore, and someone that's been an all-pro here in the past. So maybe he has a little bit of something left that can get them through their stretch run in the playoffs, and hopefully also keep Jasir Taylor off the field. But Dean Leonard was someone who was showing up big time this offseason and in the preseason. We thought that this could be a year where he would contribute heavily, but he went out with an injury, and he just keeps benefiting from other players getting hurt. I would not wish injury on any player. I just find it interesting that it's never him. It's always everyone around him. So it's like we're subjected to him and we can never get him off of the field for any substantial amount of time. And then he comes in and he's a complete liability. Earlier in the year, he made a couple of plays here and there, but nothing to offset all of the negative. And you're looking at a team that put up 40 points and only gave up 7. And lo and behold, who was the person that gave up the 1 score?
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. Cause there were not a lot of negatives. Even with the PI call on Cam Hart, the PI from Fulton, when they were kind of backed up there, that kind of extended the drive that ended up being a touchdown. Defensively, there wasn't a lot to, harp on defensively. To start the game, we saw a drop from QJ, a drop from Ladd on an easy 3rd down catch. Would have been catch for a 1st down. But, I mean, outside of that, this was a game hard to complain about. Pretty near perfect. QJ came back. He, had 48 yards, 5 receptions. I know everybody's still thinking about that one drop, but he did good enough, had a really strong catch for a 1st down. They used him in the screen game a little bit today as well. It just feels like such an easy 1-for-1 fix with Dean Leonard and Jasir Taylor. I'm not saying Dean Leonard is, a world beater by any means, but again, we're talking about 5 touchdowns from a rotational corner. That is far too much. And a guy that just keeps hurting you week in and week out. And if he's got to see time on the field during the playoffs, that's not a good recipe for the Chargers. So yes, Eddie Jackson's going to be seeing more, but I think when you look at a weak point heading into the playoffs, I think you got to start talking about what you do to cover up Jasir Taylor, because teams are out there targeting him now.
Yeah. And while you were talking about it, Nathan makes a good point here. He gave up 7 and took 7 away. So dude literally is responsible for a 14-point swing in points. It's just nothing positive to say about him.
Yeah. This could have been a 47-0 game here without Jasir Taylor in theory. But again, they won 40-7. And I was going to ask you about this later, but since Nathan's asking about it, any thoughts on that Dicker field goal? Did that feel like it was good?
Okay, so the initial angle looked like he missed it to me. But then when they replayed it and you saw it from the other side, you could see that it just was inside and over the top of the right up side of the upright or left side, whatever direction you're looking at.
Side.
So you could see that it went in. It was just the camera angle, but they got it right. The ref that was on that side had a much better view of it. So he seemed to not have a doubt about it at all. But live on TV, the broadcast view, it looked like he missed it.
Yeah, I thought he missed it too. And it wasn't reviewable, so it didn't matter. But looking at it live, that was a miss. Mm-hmm. Then when you got that field goal camera angle straight up, you could see that it just squeaked inside. And once it passed that the post, it was in and then drifted off right for no good. And that's what the stadium was seeing, but that televised view of the camera angle from the goalpost pointing straight up, that was definitely good. Yeah.
It's as close as you can get.
And like Rolo said, it was just like a high arcing 3 from Curry. It was all good. All right. From Richie, my question, how impressed are you guys with Ladd's rookie season from the day we drafted him to where we're at now?
I'm very impressed with Ladd overall, just because Again, I figured that he would be a vital part of the offense. I just thought that as the year went on, he would be more of the guy that got the majority of the targets. He definitely was going to be a difference maker in my eyes. I just didn't foresee him being literally like the number one passing threat. I thought that he would be like a complementary threat to one of the other receivers, Josh Palmer being the number one, and then Lad being right behind him. So more of your big play guy, touchdown maker to me in my eyes was going to be Palmer, and then Lad would be like your volume threat in the passing game. But he's managed to be as a quote unquote slot receiver, which I actually see him as more than that, being the number one wide receiver. And guys of his build with his game don't tend to do that. But if you look at some of the other historically good wide receivers, not all of them have been like, I guess prototypical size and height. Like I know he's a nutcase, but Antonio Brown was not a huge wide receiver. But fantastic receiver as far as route running, quickness, and hands are concerned. You got like guys like Tyler Lockett, who aren't huge guys, but definitely difference makers. I mean, he's, not a spring chicken anymore, but in his heyday was definitely a difference maker. I think Ladd was just perceived differently than what he actually has proven himself to be. I never thought he was Julian Edelman or anything like that. I feel like guys just see like a smaller white guy, wide receiver, and they will all want to like pigeonhole them into like the same category. But Ladd is a far more athletic player than those guys. I know that they were joking about his short shuttle, which was elite. I have to go back and look at those RAS scores, but I think that he had a pretty decent vertical and everything. Lad's just an athlete overall. So you combine all those skill sets with how hard he works and the football IQ, and you got the makings of a very, very good wide receiver that just needs to stay healthy. That's going to be the biggest thing for him.
Yeah. And obviously it's impressive. I don't think anybody really believed that he would be 1,000-yard receiver. We didn't think he'd be on track to breaking Keenan Allen's records for receptions or yards. I don't think anybody predicted that. Yes, he was going to be a nice, effective receiver in this offense. I don't think anybody thought he was going to be wide receiver one. I think it really started to take a turn in that New Orleans game where he had 111 yards. He had 2 touchdowns. And that was the game where it was like, let's take the reins off. This is our wide receiver one. Take the Ferrari out of the garage. Let's take it for a spin. And from there on out, it's been 50 plus yards. That's where this record's coming from, where they said he's wide receiver one. Screw the size, screw the, slot receiver label and name. Wherever you line him up, he's our wide receiver one. He's going to be our go-to wide receiver when we need it on those down and distance. When you have to have it on those money downs, just like Georgia did when he was in college. You went to Ladd McConkey. The Chargers are doing that now. And now we're seeing him, rolled out as the wide receiver one. And it's, obviously not a perfect wide receiver group now with what they have on the roster. And it might be a little concerning going into the playoffs. But what we do know is Ladd is all but a wide receiver one in the NFL. And it's going to be nice to get him a little shiny toy next season. But I mean, you got to be impressed with what he's put together his rookie season.
What's probably even more shocking is you go look at his contested catch percentage, and it's relatively high. It's way higher than you would expect for someone of his stature. So he's getting it done basically in every way you can as a receiver. And you saw him on the vertical side of things today. He can beat guys one-on-one vertically. He's got enough speed to do it. He may not have like the arm length and reach of some of the taller wide receivers, so that might hinder him a bit. But it's really easy to develop chemistry with a wide receiver as a quarterback when the dude you're throwing to is literally almost always open. Like that's the difference between him and the rest of the receivers. See Herbert have to fit balls into some really tight spots with these other guys, and it's almost always contested catch situations. Whereas how many times this season can you count like watching Ladd McConkey run scot-free across the field, or break into the inside, maybe run like a twist route, get back to the outside, and get like 3 to 4 yards of separation between him and the defensive back. He's the only wide receiver in the wide receiving core that can gain consistent separation. So if you want to gain the trust of a quarterback, then that's how you do it. Because in Herbert's eyes, when he's throwing the ball at Ladd, he's always open. So there you go.
Yep. Yeah. It's all about that separation. And he is you used the word technician. He is a technician. And if you get open, Herbert's going to find you, and McConkey always finds a way to get open. So do you think do you think Asante Samuel Jr. comes back this season?
That's rough.
And if he does, do you think he makes the starting rotation?
If it gets Jasir Taylor off the field, I hope he does. Because the funny thing is, we were talking about what's going to happen now with Molden going out and how guys are going to have to maneuver around and what that could potentially mean. At this point, I feel like, and I don't know if we're going to get it, I just really want to understand what's going on with ASJ, because if there were a time that you need him, I'd say, a playoff run would be the opportunity to get him back on the field now. Granted, I don't know. I mean, he's still on IR. It's not like he's had an opportunity to get out and practice whatsoever. So he's still going to have to get acclimated to being back on the field when he actually does, if he does. So I don't know, man. That whole situation is just very strange to me. It doesn't appear like he's going to be back. And then my question is, because the players know what's going on. So if he's been off the field for reasons that aren't necessarily 100% football related, I mean, don't want to just assume that, not trying to speculate. Mm-hmm. But you can't just drop him back into the mix with all the guys that have been working all season long. I mean, if it's something that's legitimately based on an injury and he gets back and they take him off IR, he works his way back onto the field, fine. If it's something outside of that and you just put him back on the field because you quote unquote need him, how are the rest of the guys on the defensive side looking at that? So again, I think it's probably injury related and maybe something else on top of that. But if you're asking me if I think he's going to play again, I mean, we could definitely use him. I just don't know I don't think he'll be back. I don't.
Yeah, I don't feel comfortable putting ASJ back unless he came back next week, and I don't think that's a possibility. I don't know that you put ASJ, who's been on the sideline for as long as he has, back on the field in a playoff game with as well as Tarheeb Still and Cam Hart have been playing. And Fulton, I know, has been hit and miss at times this season, but I mean, those three seem to be making a case to keep themselves on the field at the moment. And I don't know that ASJ, by the way, when he was on the field, wasn't all that great. I don't know you can feel comfortable rolling him out there during the playoffs. So I would like to see a rotation with him, like being the next man up outside of Jasir Taylor, pushing him further down the depth chart. But I don't know that he comes back and then is a starter. And if you guys got questions, send them in now, because we're gonna start answering these. You got to pick one from Casey. Would you rather have Tyreek Hill or Garrett Wilson this offseason?
Garrett Wilson, without a doubt.
Yep, same here. All right.
Well, it hasn't there been like this thing that went out about the Chargers odds being betting favorites to trade for Tyreek Hill this offseason or something like that? Thought I saw that somewhere on Twitter. It's Twitter, so who the hell knows?
Antonio, third postseason in 11 seasons. What the hell was Telesco doing as a GM? First season as GM for Joe Ortiz, playoffs, and a 10-plus win season, by the way. We had said that this team was a 10 to 11 win season team at best, and I think we're going to hit that mark.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're probably winning 11 games.
Yeah,
if they're playing starters next week.
I think they want to fight to get that 5 seed. So I expect them to play starters next week, and hopefully, like we mentioned today, the games go the way we need them to today and throughout the rest of the weekend. But yeah, man, we were never Telesco fans. I don't think we ever really hid. I'm not going to say our disdain for him, because there were people that we disliked more above him that were, we always just kind of felt like he was a puppet. Yeah. And, people were giving passes for hitting on first round picks that were almost near misses. I mean, no way that you could miss on them. So I'm not giving you credit for like landing Joey Bosa. You will get credit for Keenan Allen, because, you stopped the fall. Keenan would have been a first round selection had he not had that injury to his knee or leg or something like that, which caused him to run like that 4.7, 4.8, 40, whatever that was. But Keenan Allen was a first round draft pick. But you stopped the slide in the third round and you got him. And you got some other guys here and there. But as far as just the overall depth, it was always a problem. And they always played the hurry up and wait approach. The Chargers always had a tendency to go after guys or positions after it was already readily known that they were deficient there. And so they were playing catch up as opposed to strengthening positions. They were always trying to fix issues, and then other leaks would pop up other places because you're spending too much of, your capital on one area because you took years to decide you want to, do anything about it. So he was always playing behind the 8 ball, and now he's doing the exact same thing as the Raiders GM, but, not our problem anymore. So, sorry, not sorry. And hopefully continue to do what you've always done. And you're doing it in the right place, actually. I couldn't think of a better organization for him to be with.
I know. I really need a decade-long contract for Telesco with the Raiders.
Mm-hmm. Keep the head coach too.
Yeah, all of them. God, the Raiders are an absolute mess. And there was talk of Raider fans going crazy when they signed Christian Wilkins. They're like, man, we finally got a stud. And then they had no money left for anywhere else. They drafted.
And then he gets hurt.
Yep.
Yeah. I can't wait to revisit early season takes, because I had so many Raiders fans talking crazy to me before the season started. And I told them, like, hey, I can almost predict how this is going to happen. Your team's going to fall apart. Your best player isn't going to be on your team by the trade deadline. And lo and behold, he wasn't. Ended up with Aaron Rodgers, and they're failing over there with the Jets. And again, the rest of the team fell apart. But, it starts at the top. Your owner is horrible, and he hired a horrible GM. Your team forced you to keep a head coach that wasn't worthy of the position, and now you're reaping the rewards of it. So, good on you. Yeah,
we were talking about how this was kind of a transitional year for the Chargers. They ended up making the playoffs in a transitional year, and they're weak at a lot of spots. And somehow Ortiz and Harbaugh have found a way to make this a playoff team on the verge of maybe a 5 seed in the AFC. We'll see what happens and who they play and what they do from there once they hit the playoffs. But it is nothing but impressive for what Harbaugh and Ortiz has done with this roster on paper to what they've done here with 1 game left, a double-digit win season in his first year, a playoff appearance for both of them in their first year. They're getting the most out of every player on the roster so far. I know there's a Jasir Taylor joke we can make here, but when you look at, Derwin James looking back at, looking at peak form, having these 2 rookie cornerbacks show out, this rookie wide receiver breaking records, franchise records, Keenan's old record that we thought was, not going to be broken for a very long time with how good Keenan ended up being. And then all these other, free agent signings from a Disley to a Molden to the interior guys in Puna Ford and Tart. There's just across the board been, and then Henley coming out and being what he is. What Ortiz and Harbaugh have done before we get off this podcast is a miracle. It is something that we have wanted for so long. Anytime there was a coaching vacancy, we had talked about Harbaugh. And then in the off season, when we thought that there was a chance that this could happen and the leaks started to come in and we started to share them, and then the slow build to what they are now is really, really impressive and very fun. And Charger fans, you absolutely deserve it, because we have lived through hell for a very, very long time. And this game showed it. They did not relent to a very bad team. They beat them into the dirt and left no question. And that's the Harbaugh way. And it's impressive what Harbaugh and Ortiz have done so far with this organization. And it just feels like it's going to be a real nice ascension for the next couple of years. So I just want to say, before we get off here, this is what Ortiz and Harbaugh have done has been incredible.
Before we get off, I want to say one thing. Every time I look at Deion Henley play, I want to punch Brandon Staley in the face. Like, for every game I just want to sock him at least once. Just test his chin check him, because that's ridiculous. It's a travesty. I don't understand how you keep a player with disability sideline. Granted, he was young, needs to learn the system. I get all of that. But as far as the production is concerned, you let a guy like that get on the field in a rotation, grow and learn. but you love Kenneth Murray. So what else is there to say?
I know. I will never forgive him for pounding the table for a Deion Henley and then not playing him. I just don't. I don't know. They went against the grain and what their scouts wanted in Trenton Simpson, and he said, Deion Henley's my guy. Give him to me. He got him and then didn't play him. Got a question here from a Thea, or at least a comment. I want the smoke. My coach and my quarterback want the smoke. Give me the Ravens. In 2011, we lost in the regular season. We beat them in the playoffs. I am not scared. I mean, I don't know about you, Thea, but I want the Texans. Did you see what happened a couple days ago?
Well, not just a couple days ago. How about a few weeks ago when the Chargers had to face that? And,
the Ravens, right. I was talking about the Texans.
No, I get it. No, I get it. Like that, that's most recent. So we saw their last appearance, and there, I get it. That's the matchup you want for revenge. Awesome. I don't want to see that in the first round of the playoffs. And also, I don't know if your coach and your quarterback want to see that in the first round of the playoffs. Now, I'm happy that you have all the confidence in the world in them, but it's everything else surrounding them that concerns me. And plus, that Ravens defense is starting to come on a little bit. So they were already able to put up points, but now they're stopping people too. So that's kind of scary proposition. I would much rather get warmed up, get the Texans in the first round, find a little bit of, not going to necessarily say an easier path, but give the Chargers an opportunity to keep growing. And then when they need to be at their best, maybe have like a game or two under their belt before they take on a Ravens team. But I'm not trying to see all that in the first round. I want to enjoy my playoff experience.
Is this year right? 2011? Didn't they beat they played them during the regular season? Didn't they beat the Ravens in 2011?
Well, they played them in back-to-back weeks, right? What year was that? Was that 2018?
That was not 11. 11.
No, that was it. So it was Lamar's rookie year, wasn't it? That they played the Ravens. It was back-to-back weeks.
Yeah, and that was the dime package that Gus.
Yeah, because they had no linebackers that year. So that was 2018.
2011 was Norv, and I'm pretty sure they were at like 500. So, and I'm pretty sure
you're talking about when Ray Lewis was that the year? What year was that Ray Lewis demolished? Who was the running back? It was Darren Sproles. They ran like an obvious draw play or something, and Ray Lewis smoked Darren Sproles. That's stuck in my head. I can't remember what year that was. It might have been earlier than 2011. That's the one that's sticking out to me.
Yeah. I think he means 2018. And
it's 18.
If my memory serves, they beat the Ravens, and they were like 500 under Norv that year. Somebody else looked that up. I don't want to look that up. All right. Yeah, I think we're good. If you guys have any other questions, we're past an hour here, and we all got a game to watch here. The Broncos are currently up 3-0. We want the Bengals to win as Charger fans. So we are all Bengals fans right now. Bengals are somewhat driving here, so hopefully they can score and run away with it. So appreciate you guys watching. Chargers are playoff bound. We'll be talking playoffs here for the next week or so. The Chargers got one more game against the who are they playing? Craig, do you remember?
Some team that wears black and silver, I think, playing a life-size Roomba.
Speak of the devil. They play the Raiders, and it's going to be in Vegas. I think they do want to win, and I think hopefully the Raiders are still out of that high draft pick after that win last week.
Yeah, so it's funny. I was thinking about it. I know people are kind of going back and forth, like they want the Raiders to win so they get a worse draft pick and miss out on a quarterback. But I don't ever want to lose to the Raiders because they're delusional, and for them that'll be their Super Bowl. So for the team that plays in a stadium that literally looks like something that sucks up trash, I would rather go in there, beat them to a pulp, and let them go off into the offseason sad and even more delusional. Have them hopeful that they'll get their quarterback and then end up not doing it anyway and wind up with I don't know, maybe Aaron Rodgers or somebody instead. That'd be fun.
And Richie says there's a short video of Jim and Joe hugging each other in the locker room. I just looked it up. It's 8 seconds, so we won't play it here, but it's a cute little watch. Appreciate you guys. Thanks, Craig, for watching. Thank you, everybody else, for tuning in today. We appreciate you guys. You heard from Jamie earlier on. Go Grace and all her tournament play today. Wish them luck. Thank you for watching. We will see you next week, and we're going to have a playoff podcast coming very, very soon, and I couldn't be more excited about it. Appreciate you guys. We will see you next time, and thank you, everybody.
Salute.